Today is the perfect day for me to start my spicy peppers, which I only really have two. I have jalapenos and poblanos. So I am going to start them here today, here at the beginning of February for my Central Indiana garden, Zone 6. But I'm actually not going to be taking these seedlings outside until the late April, beginning of May time. If you have grown peppers before, you know that they take forever. They grow really, really slow. I mean, some of these will take close to a month to germinate. Depending the varieties that you have, some of them might be a little bit quicker, maybe 14 days. But to be safe, I give myself a good 14 to 25 days for these seeds to germinate. And on top of that, these seeds are older. These seeds are like old, you guys. So I know that some of them are just not gonna do anything, but I'm hoping that I get at least what I need from these guys. And if anything fails, there's always seedlings at the stores. I can easily find jalapenos or poblano peppers at my local nurseries. But today I am going to be answering a bunch of questions that I get right about this time of year from people who are getting ready to start seeds. They have been doing this for a while. Maybe they have questions about the kind of process that I go through, the things that I use. I grabbed most of these questions from past videos from the last couple of years. I have a bunch of videos on seed starting flowers, vegetables. So hopefully if you are wondering about some of these things, hopefully this video is helpful for you. One of the questions that I get asked the most is the soil that I use to start my seeds indoors. And I am going to rephrase this by saying that all of the answers that you're going to hear from me here today are going to come from my own experience. This is not the best out there. This is not the only way that you should do this. Depending who you ask, anything about seed starting, you're gonna get lots of different answers. That being said, the soil that I use here is potting mix from Burpees. Yes, Burpees does make a seed starting mix, which was something that I was using up until last year. I really don't see a difference in my seeds germinating using seed starting mix or using potting mix. But the potting mix that I'm using here from Burpees is amazing. Okay, it's very fine, very fluffy. It doesn't have all the crazy chunks of wood or whatever potting mix additives that you get from other mixes. And this is why I am using this potting mix. Now, if I didn't have access to this locally, if I didn't know about this or I just couldn't get it online, I will probably get some sort of seed starting mix that it will do the job. But in this case, this is working really, really great for me. Now, depending who you ask, like I said, you're going to get a lot of different opinions. Some people swear by mixing peat lye with some sort of compost, coconut coir. My advice will be for you to try something that is high quality, that is nice and clean in the bag. These guys have been inside. These have been inside here for the last 2 months because I have been buying this for the last couple of months. And I am okay using this indoors. Now, a lot of you ask me, what is the best potting mix or what is the best seed starting mix that I can get that is not going to get me fungus gnats? And here's the thing. There are a lot of things that you can do to prevent not having an infestation with fungus gnats. But more than likely, by having a wet soil indoors with humidity, with heat, you're going to get the fungus gnats. It's just a matter of time by the time that they show up. I get fungus gnats here every year, but it's not until later in the seed starting season, like April-ish, when I start seeing those. And I use sticky traps. I don't do anything to prevent those really, other than bottom watering and not keeping my soil wet all of the time. Another question I get is LED lights or grow lights? Which one should I get? Personally, I use LED lights for everything that I grow indoors. I am not trying to get my peppers or my tomato plants or my flowers to bloom, to give me fruit. I am just trying to give them a jump, get them big enough so that I can take them outside. And using LED shop lights help me. I am going to link everything on the description that I use in here. Now, some of you are wondering, what about using a window light? I have a huge window, can I use that instead? It's not that you cannot use window light to grow your seedlings, but the results are going to be different as if you were using some sort of artificial light. Window light is not going to be enough most of the time. It's not going to be strong enough. But if that is the only thing that you have access to right now, try it. See how well your plants do. You might have very good luck with your plants. Some of you are asking, what about soil blacking? Why are you not doing soil blacks anymore? And I tried soil blacks for a whole season, and soil blacks were easy to do. Okay, I came up with a great mix, which that part was a little bit, I don't know, time consuming, but I found a good mix. And the soil block making part was easy. However, it just doesn't work out for me. And I'm probably going to hurt a lot of people's feelings when I say this, but I'd rather stick with my plastic containers. And the main reason for me not doing soil blacks is because I don't really start tons of things at once here. For example, today I'm going to be starting hopefully a bunch of these pepper seeds. And I know that these seeds are really, really old. They're not going to give me the germination that I want. So instead of making a soil block for each one of these seeds, I can just have something like this, something that I don't have to have a recipe, something that is just straight out of the bag. And whatever germination I get from here can go into their own little container later on. I wouldn't have that luxury with soil blocks because I will have to have a block specifically made for each one of these seeds. And I mean, I have tons of seeds here, but I am not going to be using all of these peppers if I get them all to germinate. So in a way, it was just a lot more work required on my end for something that was going to get me the same results using containers. Okay, so these are jalapeno peppers, and these are very, very old. These seeds were purchased in 2020, so I have about, I don't know, maybe 25 seeds or so here. I really only need about 3 or 4 plants, but this is probably the year that I get to use them all. You can probably see it. I don't know that you can see that. I'm going to cover this with some soil, some potting mix really. I'm going to tag them so that I am not later on wondering if these are jalapenos or poblanos. And this is what my tagging looks like. The date and what type they are. I'm going to start with my poblanos now. These poblanos are gorgeous. And I really only need about, I don't know, 2 to 3 plants really. I don't know how old these are, but they are very, very old. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to go heavy, and we'll see what we get. There we go. And right there we have our peppers, jalapenos and poblanos ready to go. Hopefully we get some germination. Hopefully we get plenty of germination that we don't have to buy any peppers. A lot of questions that I normally get on my videos whenever I'm showing you how to start something from seed is, I live in zone 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What month can I start this on? If you have been starting seeds indoors for a few years now, you know that the zone that you live on has nothing to do with seed starting. But if you are just new this year, or maybe last year was your first year trying to grow seeds, you're going to find out that the zone that you live in has nothing to do with when you need to start your seeds. The zone where you live is telling you what plants are going to be able to come back year after year outside, which plants are going to be perennials for you, and which plants are going to be annuals because of your winter conditions. That's what it's telling you. Somebody who lives in a zone 6 in one side of the country versus somebody who lives in a zone 6 on the other side are going to have completely different times of when they can start the same plant indoors. Your last frost date, the average date on when your last frost date is going to tell you when you can take your things outside, when you can start planting things outdoors for things that don't handle the frost well, that is. So that is the date that you really have to know in order to start seeds indoors. For example, tomatoes here, I start them about 4 to 6 weeks before my last frost date. For me, my last frost date is average April 25th, but I really wait until May 1st just so that I am completely safe. So I am going to go 4 to 6 weeks before that date. And that's going to be completely different from somebody else in a different side of the country. So when you're asking somebody how soon or how quick or what month to grow a plant from seed, really what you should be asking is how many weeks before my last frost day should I start this plant? And that will give you a better idea for your growing conditions. I briefly talked on this on another video about winter sowing, but I am not going to be doing winter sowing this year. I did it for the last 3 years or so. My results were up and down depending on the year, depending on the weather that year. So this year is just not something that I'm going to do. For me, at least, the winter is really off. This week we're getting ready for a couple of days to be in the 60s, believe it or not. I mean, it's going to get really close to the 60s. If I have something outside in clear containers and if it gets sunny, things are going to be cooking in there. To be honest, I don't ever rely on things to grow on winter sowing or by using that technique. I start plenty of things here indoors from seed that those are the plants that I'm going to be using outside. So the reason for me doing winter sowing in the last few years has been to see if anything grows. And if I get something from it, that's amazing. But I don't normally rely on things to grow with winter sowing. So I am just going to skip that part for this year. Another question that I get a lot is, where do I purchase my seeds? I don't just go to one place. I don't have one favorite place. I have many favorites. Just to mention a few, and I know I'm going to leave a bunch of them out. Baker Creek's, Johnny's, True Leaf Market, Etsy, although just look at those reviews on Etsy because you never know. Pine Trees, Outdoor Pride, Botanical Gardens, M.I. Gardner, Tomato Bob in Ohio. I love that guy, Tomato Bob. Those are the ones that come to mind. And I also have joined seed swaps before. And recently I went to a seed swap event where I found a bunch of tomatoes. So it's just going to depend what I am buying that year and who has a better deal, more seeds, or who has the seeds that I'm looking for. For example, last year trying to find purple millet grass seeds was really hard for me. And I believe the only place that had them were Outdoor Pride. I could be wrong on that, but depending on the seeds that I'm looking for, it's going to be where I go and shop them. I'm not married to one. You also want to know about my watering schedule, and I don't really have a schedule. It's more of a routine, and my routine is I check everything. I make sure that they are looking good, nothing is dying, maybe something germinated overnight, and if something needs water, that's when I'm going to be watering. And I do mostly bottom watering because that helps the seeds, that helps the seedlings in not getting bombarded by water. That's just the way that I like to do it. Whenever people ask me, when do you water the plants? Well, whenever they need the water, really. So that might be once or twice a week, depending on the seedlings and the size. That might be 3 or 4 times a week. Okay, the last question before this video gets extremely long. How do I decide what containers to use for each seed? How do I decide what I grow my peppers or what I grow my tomatoes in? How do I make that decision? And the answer is going to be pretty boring, but bear with me. How I decide what containers to use when I start seeds is just going to depend on how that seed grows and what I need to get out of it, and space as well. So I guess it could be a little bit more complicated than boring. For example, today I started these peppers. I started jalapenos and I started poblano peppers. And I have close to, I don't know, 60, 70 seeds, maybe, all combined. And yes, they are really, really old seeds. Some of these seeds are about 4 years old and they're not going to be germinating. I just know this for peppers. From my experience with them, I just know this. So having these two little trays, one for jalapenos and one for poblanos, they're not going to take really much space. Okay, this is just doesn't take that much space. Now, if I would have decided to use a 6-cell plug and have one seed in each container, then it would have taken a whole tray, a whole 10 by 20 tray of peppers that may or may not germinate. Now, right now, when I am just starting to get some seeds going, it's the very, very beginning. I don't have all of my lights on in each individual shelf. I only have about 2 shelves right now that I am using with lights, so I can easily squeeze these 2 there and I don't have to get another shelf. But if I didn't have any space, if I needed to use this whole 10, 20, I will have to start another shelf, get more energy to get the lights going, and you get the idea. So most of the time I just really know what I need to get out of it, and just to save space, I am going to start them in something small. And really, there is no right or wrong way to start your seeds. If you have the containers, if you have the space, and if you have all the lights available and all the space, then you do whatever works for you. I hope that this video was helpful. And tell me, did you start your peppers yet? Let me know.